Hello, team, and welcome to episode 2 of our 2024 creative class. You ain't never had a study buddy like me. Um, Remember, this ain't, I'm going to talk about it later. You should not be using it. But today we will be seeing what I consider the number one activity to see continuous growth in your English. It's a quick, let's say, English snack, a little activity that you can do with a couple of minutes. All you need is a study buddy. What is a study buddy? Study buddy is anybody who is interested in growing their English. They know more than you, great. They can help you out. If they know less, that's awesome too. You can help them out. The best way to learn is teaching. So we are going to see why this is important. When you prepare a question, you can include new vocab. Let's say you're saying headphones. Do you use headphones? Do you prefer the headphones that go in your ear or around your ear? You have that. You have number 2. You have to get over that resistance some of us have to speaking in another language. It's the same resistance I have if I imagine I have to dance somewhere. I don't want to dance. So, I'm not a dancer. I admire those who do. But that same feeling, it's the same one that many people who want to learn English struggle with. So you get over that. And last up, you have to listen to the person's answer without subtitles. And if all goes well, the conversation will continue. So we will be reviewing how to ask questions in English. That's a little bit different in English and Portuguese, but I hope most of this is familiar to you. And if you learn something new, that's our goal. All right. So, team, let me introduce you to this this genie right here. This picture was made with ChatGPT, and you will notice that this genie is not coming out of a lamp. So one day you're coming home from the beach and you run into a Stanley Cup. You rub the sand out of it, and the magic genie of the Stanley Cup comes out. Yes, he's a modern genie. He does CrossFit. He's probably vegan, and he's going to give you 3 wishes. There's a catch, though. At the end of 2024, December 31st, midnight, just like Cinderella, poof, your wishes will go away. What are you asking for? I want you to stop. I want you to do that activity because it will come back later. All right? Next up, how to ask questions. My course was made for Brazilians. I live in Brazil. My mother's Brazilian. And there are some differences between English and Portuguese when we ask questions. In Portuguese, you just change your tone of voice. You like sushi, the statement. You like sushi. You have that lilt in your voice, you make it a question. In English, it doesn't exactly work like that. Here, we emphasize these auxiliary verbs. Here is the list of auxiliary verbs. And if a sentence starts with do, with have, with can, with any of these, if you don't hear anything else, somebody comes up to you, you're walking down Times Square, Merry Christmas to everybody, and somebody stops and says, oh, do you? And you don't hear anything else, 2 things. A, it's a question. And B, the answer is either going to be yes or no. Because whenever one of these words starts a sentence, you're giving like a signal that it's a question. There is an exception, which is the imperative voice, like, do your homework. Have more ice cream. But remember, we're not working with exceptions whenever we can. Next up, when you answer the question, you will kind of parrot the auxiliary verb back. This is different, again, than for my Portuguese students. I said to somebody who had never studied English, oh, do you like sushi? They might say, yes, I like. In English, you would say, yes, I do. And whatever the auxiliary verb used at the beginning of the sentence of the question is, that's the one you'll use in your answer. Does she? Yes, she does. No, she doesn't. Have you? You don't hear the rest. Yes, I have. No, I haven't. So you will always parrot back this word, this first word. In real life, you don't even need to say anything. You go, but for English practice, I recommend getting used to this format because it's different than it is in Portuguese. The 2 big exceptions that I do need to talk about, because most questions are directed towards you, are you and were you. If I say, are you Brazilian? You're going to say, yes, I am, because yes, I are does not exist. The same thing with were you. Were you at the party? Yes, I was, because yes, I were does not exist. All right. And last up. So when do we know which auxiliary verb to use? Hopefully, with practice, it'll become instantaneous and you'll stop thinking about it. But if you're still in the practice phase of this exercise, write out the statement. Banana is playing Pokemon. So what will you do? You will flip the auxiliary verb with the subject, which is Banana playing Pokemon? If it was she has played soccer. Has she played soccer? You have this inversion. But we have do. When do we use this do? Do is like the little brother who goes to the pickup soccer game, and you want him to sit on the bench. Sometimes you have an odd number of players, and you need to call them in. So if the sentence does not have an auxiliary verb, which will be true for simple statements, present simple, past simple, you need to call in do. So Branu plays Pokemon, no auxiliary verb. What do? We called in him. We called do in. In this case, it's going to be does because it's in the third person. We have this S. I call it the gossip S. If I'm talking about João, if I'm talking about Maria, if I'm talking about the weather, if I'm talking about Breno, we have this S when we're gossiping. It was here in the simple sentence, plays, and you will notice that here the S disappeared. We only have one. Only one gossip. Team. That's part one for yes or no questions, but not every question can be answered with yes or no. That's when we get to these words here, the WH question words. And these are here to facilitate your life. If you're struggling with them, you need to stop and practice. The best way I have found is to make a cheat sheet where you think of the most obvious questions possible. Who is your best friend? Who is your mom? Who is your boss at work? Who is your favorite soccer player? So whatever it is, you think of some obvious questions, because whenever you hear the word who, I want it to be like a massage for your brain. You know the answer is not going to be mouse unless it's Mickey Mouse. Because when you say who, I'm looking for a person. All right. So maybe somebody, again, you're kind of distracted. You're on your phone and somebody says who, blah, blah, blah. You don't hear the rest. You're like, oh my God, what's he talking about? At least you will know he's looking for a person. So these words should bring comfort and not confusion. What I sometimes see is that people mix them up. So they'll be like, wait, is it who is it? Are they looking for a person, a place, a thing? Ugh. So that's not the reaction we want. We want this to be like, okay, good. 99% of the answers have been removed. He's looking for a person. Some bonus tips, what and which. What, you're looking for a thing, while which, you're picking an option. So if I say, what is your favorite beach? You can say any beach in the world. You can say a beach in a video game. But if I say which, I want you to pick. So for example, which beach in Brazil is your favorite? Can't answer Miami Beach. It has to be one of the Brazilian ones. So with which, it's about options. Second up is how. How by itself, like this. How did, how can, how have. How by itself with the auxiliary verb, you're asking about the manner, the way something is done. But if you attach an adjective to how, you might have seen like how much, how old are you, how tall are you, how hot is it today, how funny was that movie, how delicious was that cake. You're asking to quantify, using that adjective, how much of that thing. So if I say, how delicious was that cake? I didn't like it. Oh, the cake was delicious. Oh, it was great, but my mom makes a better cake. So you're asking to use that as a kind of a measurement for how much. Right? And how much and how many are literal quantities. How much for uncountable things, how many for countable things. What do I mean by this? If you can answer with just a number, how many pens do I have? 2. You can answer with just a number. But if I were to say, okay, how much is this Mickey? You would have to say either $5, reais. You would need to add the unit of measurement. So unless you can give the answer with just a number, and it can be a million, the billion, whatever number you can think of, but if you can answer with just a number, how many? If not, how much? So now we're going to get to our first game of the year. And this one is called the Ruining Game, Wish Edition. And it's great for you to do with somebody who you're familiar with, somebody you're comfortable with, a spouse, a brother, a sister, a friend of yours. And how does it work? Remember those wishes from above? Well, number one, you grab a study buddy. Number two, somebody makes a wish. Well, I'll use this example. I wish that my dog could talk. Number two needs to ruin the wish. Yes, but when he talks, you discover that he is a flat earther. Then you flip the roles. I wish every time I put my hand in my pocket, there was $100 bill. Yeah, but there's also a scorpion inside who you're going to need to do battle with. So that's how you play. And really, the only way to win is to make a wish so perfect that it is impossible to ruin. Okay? It's a quick game. I expect to see some smiles. And that's what I'm looking for in your English practice, because you do not need discipline if you make it fun. So make your English practice fun. We want it to be enjoyable. We want you to have a good relationship with English. We don't want you to be, oh my God, does it have or has? No, that's not what we want. I'll leave that for the other English schools. All right. Here, and this is your official challenge of the week. This is Good Question Shred. Your challenge this week is to ask a question that gets this reaction. Good question. Ooh, that's a hard one. Ooh, that's tough. Let me think about that. I want that reaction, of course, in English. So your challenge this week, I guess you have seven opportunities if you ask a question a day to get this reaction. And if you manage to get it, you have passed. And tell me about it. I would love to hear the questions as well. If you have any good questions, send them my way, because I use them in class all the time. Conversation starters. Let me pick one. Ooh. Which one shall I pick? What is your fun resolution for 2024? Become an adult, most of your resolutions are very serious. I'm going to do this work. I'm going to lose this amount of kilos. I'm going to learn a new language. But I have some teenage kids. Their wishes are awesome. They're like, oh, their resolutions are awesome. I want to make more friends. I want to play more soccer. And so I think it's important to have a fun resolution as well. And mine are Patricia and I, we send each other recipes on Instagram all the time. So we need to make a new recipe each week, or at least try to make one. And I have a second one, which is that if my daughter, or I guess another kid, asks me to swim with her, that I will always reserve a couple of minutes to jump in the pool. It's I always feel bad when the kid wants somebody to swim with them and nobody's available. So those are my resolutions for 2020. Besides making this course awesome, that's my serious resolution. All right, team. Last up, like I mentioned earlier, quick dad joke. I will leave this for you, but ain't. When should we use ain't? We should never use ain't. Ain't is a choice. You're choosing to kind of marginalize your English. And I'll say that sometimes you can use a wanna, a gonna, it's fine. But I cannot see any situation where you would want to use ain't. All right, team, that's it. Thank you, and I hope to see you in class.